of senior devotees were gathering in Bombay. They had gone there from Vrindavan and were waiting for Prabhupada. I am therefore going, said Prabhupada. In spite of my so much inconvenience, I am going there. You want to stay in Bombay? Asked Tamal Krishna. How long? I don't want to stay anywhere, said Prabhupada. I want to work. Staying. I have stayed in big, big palaces, big cities. I have no other desire but to work. How long do you want to work in Bombay? Asked Tamal Krishna. So long as there is work, said Srila Prabhupada. There is no end of it. Our Bombay should be organized. Work is our life. There is no question of how long as possible. Krishna is giving us good opportunities. Now we should take it seriously. It is not a joke. Hare Krishna movement is bona fide religion. The devotees discussed before Prabhupada the significance of the court decision. They also appreciated the judge and said that he was a senior man in the courts and was considered conservative. Srila Prabhupada said that he should be sent a letter of congratulations. Quote, may God bless you for such right judgment. Live long life to serve God, end quote. Honest and sincere people normally appreciate our movement, said Swarup Damodar. Only those who are envious. Envious we don't care about, Prabhupada interjected. We don't care, never care about. I didn't care. Many times, even my godbrothers. Neither do I care now. I'll go on with my work. Why care? We are doing our duty, that's all. Under the higher authoritative order. Have no fear. It is not personal gratification. So arrange for Manipur. We shall go. Sarup Damodar said he would go to Delhi and try to arrange permits for entry, but that it would be hard since most foreigners were not allowed to enter Manipur. He said that after doing his business, he would come to Bombay and see Srila Prabhupada. Now work very strenuously, said Prabhupada. You're all young men, and somehow or other, to a dead horse you have given life. The last fortnight I was thinking I was dead. I was thinking like that. Now life is finished. I can be finished at any time. That is not amazing. To live, that is amazing. My life is finished. That is not amazing. No one will lament. Oh, he was old man, 82 years old. But if I can live for some days more, that is wonderful. If I die, that is not wonderful. Krishna is wonderful, said Tamal Krishna. Krishna is wonderful always, said Prabhupada. And you are wonderful, said Bhavananda. I am wonderful, said Srila Prabhupada, as long as I serve Krishna. Otherwise, useless, no value. If I can serve Krishna, then I am wonderful, certainly. Srila Prabhupada continued declaring that Krishna was the most wonderful and could do anything. That he was alive and still active, he said, attested to Krishna being wonderful. If Krishna is not wonderful, he said, is it possible for me to do all these things? Who am I? We don't want to become cheaply wonderful. We want to become really wonderful by serving Krishna. That is our mission. Krishna is wonderful, undoubtedly. Who can become more wonderful than Krishna? Matak paratanam nanyat. Always remember, Krishna is wonderful. Don't take Krishna very slightly. Like one of you, that is foolishness. Krishna is wonderful always. He is the most wonderful person, and he can do anything wonderful. Srila Prabhupada continued to make appreciative remarks about the judge's decision. He said he had feared the case might have taken 14 years, and yet it had not even taken 14 hours. Krishna was so wonderful. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 7th Chapter, Text 38. Chapter titled, Further Inquiries by Vidura. How is our sound, Arjun? Everything is good to go? All glories to Arjuna Nanda for making sure the broadcast is going nicely. Purushasya chachang sthanam. Purushasya chasang sthanam. Swarupang va parasya cha. Swarupang va parasya cha. Gyanam cha nagamang yattad. Gyanam cha nagamang yattad. Guru Shishya Prayojanam. Guru Shishya Prayojanam. Please chant. Purushasya cha sanktanam. Swarupang va parasya cha. Gyanam cha nagamang yattad. Guru Shishya Prayojanam. Purushasya cha sanktanam. Arjuna, did you chant? Purushasya sanktanam. Purushasya sanktanam. Rupang va parasya cha. Gyanam cha nagamang yattad. Guru Shishya Prayojanam. Matangaji. Purushasya sanktanam. Sarupang va parasya cha. Gyanam cha nagamang yattad. Guru Shishya Prayojanam. Purushasya of the living entity. Cha also. Sangsthanam existence. Swarupam identity. Va either or. Parasya of the supreme. Cha also. Jnanam knowledge. Cha also. Nagamam in the matter of the Upanishads. Yat that. Tat the same. Guru spiritual master. Shishya disciple. Prayojanam necessity. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. What are the truths regarding the living entities in the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What are their identities? What are the specific values in the knowledge of the Vedas, in the Vedas? And what are the necessities for the spiritual master and his disciples? Purport. The living entities are constitutionally servitors of the Lord who can accept all kinds of service from everyone. It is clearly declared in the Bhagavad Gita 5:29 that the Lord is the supreme enjoyer of the benefits of all sacrifices and penances, the proprietor of all that is manifested, and the friend of all living entities. That is his real identity. Therefore, when the living entity accepts this supreme proprietorship of the Lord and acts in that attitude, he resumes his real identity. In order to elevate the living entity to this standard of knowledge, there is a necessity of spiritual association. The bona fide spiritual master desires that his disciples know the process of rendering transcendental service to the Lord. And the disciples also know that they have to learn about the eternal relationship between God and the living entity from a self-realized soul. To disseminate transcendental knowledge, one must retire from mundane activities on the strength of enlightenment in knowledge in terms of Vedic wisdom. That is the sum and substance of all the questions in this verse. Om Jnana Tamrandasya Garanjana Shlakaya Chakshurma Tamana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vatslam Pangum Mankai Teguram Yarkipatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Deataram. Translation again. What are the truths regarding the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What are their identities? What are the specific values in the knowledge in the Vedas? And what are the necessities for the spiritual master and his disciples? So this, obviously, we're most concerned with the necessities for the spiritual master and his disciples. The truths regarding the living entities in the Supreme Personality of Godhead are already discussed in the very beginning. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Nectar Devotion, everything there points to the constitutional position and relationship of the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But these further inquiries by Vidura are meant to elaborate and elucidate all these various questions which could be put forth at any time over the course of millennia. So we know that this conversation was taking place 5,000 years ago. So we can understand that in the material sense, we hear often that withstands the test of time. That which withstands the test of time. So we have not seen any deviation in this process, which is a clear indication, if one has the ability to objectively analyze, of the veracity of this philosophy, the truth. We know the truth is eternal, but yet due to, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna declares to Arjuna, the science as it is appears to be lost. And so Krishna said, I first spoke this supreme science to the sun god, Vivasvan. So does anybody know the timeline in that regard? 2 million years. 2 million years. And the material scientists are saying that the human beings are only here since the last 40,000 years. Before that, everything is Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon, and not the music group, but the But we see here that 2 million years ago, the supreme science was discussed on a higher level. This is not on the earthly plane. But the materialists also have no access to this knowledge. They know that somehow or other, otherwise we see, why is there so much interest in going to the moon or to Mars? What is the purpose? From their observations, the moon is just a satellite, a cold, dark place in one sense. And we agree with that. We understand that the moon gives cooling light. So what is the purpose? It's because they somehow or other intrinsically understand that they are not of this location. This earthly planet is not their original abode. Right? So we see that this preoccupation, it pervades literature since the beginning of this so-called modern age, which is just a few hundred years. They're always trying to go. They fantasize about spaceships and aliens and all these different things because it is there in the back of our subtle mind, which is carrying the living entity from one body to another. This is all there. So the subtle body is with us since time immemorial. So when we were demigods, the subtle body was there. The subtle mind, the intelligence, the ego, it was all there. And so sometimes we have dreams for which we have no experience in this lifetime. Because everything is there. The mind is just like a memory stick. And the eyes are just like cameras. And everything you have ever seen and everything you have ever heard is there in this immense, what do they want to call it? The memory. They have their memory in the cloud. They have their memory on the sticks. They have everything, all types of memories. But the only memory that they really need is that memory that says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall we ever cease to be. Because that sets the stage for our understanding of who we actually are. This question of identity, which is so elusive, nobody understands. And now they're trying to expand this sense of identity by declaring that there are 100 genders or something such like this. Who can imagine the illusion and the attempt to impose it on the less intelligent mass of people who have no access to higher knowledge? If one reads Bhagavad Gita, it is just like a reset. Immediately one's original consciousness comes into play. Everything is there. The Supreme Personality is situated within the heart. And from him comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So you read this Bhagavad Gita, boom, reset. I wake up. Now I remember, I'm spirit soul. I'm not this material body. And then from that platform, one can begin to reawaken this dormant identity and all of its concomitant features. This knowledge is there within every living entity. The term we use, Atma Tattva Gyan, the science of self-realization. What does that mean? It means everything is there already. We have to realize it. And how do we realize it? Through the cleansing process. Chaita Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavadi Nirvapana. This is the key. There's the ability to place oneself, as it's described here, and accept the supreme proprietorship of the Lord and act in that attitude. So this is the essence of what it means to be a devotee. And just by this one simple attitude adjustment, one's life becomes perfect. So it is not something that requires great intellectual gymnastics in order to accomplish. Sometimes we see that there's an attempt to climb the yoga ladder. Prabhupada described the yoga system as a ladder. It's like one wants to reach an elevated position. He has to first step on the first rung. And then gradually he can ascend until he reaches the top. But bhakti yoga is such that one is immediately brought to the highest level simply by this process of surrender. There is no other requirement. But to reach that point takes a certain amount of fortitude, philosophical, intellectual. Yasya devi parabhakti yata deve tata guru. That this one has to have implicit faith in the spiritual master and Krishna. Then all the purports of the Vedas are automatically revealed. And this particular verse is, Prabhupada quotes this very often from the Svetasvatara Upanishad. Because he wants the disciple, at least, to understand what is required. It is not that one has to make an extra endeavor to attain this knowledge. Just like there's that other verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Saeva Daya Bhak. What's that verse, Arjuna? Tatenu kampam susamiksamano. It says that one automatically inherits the wealth of the Father. He doesn't have to make any extra endeavor. He is eligible as long as he remains in that relationship. If he becomes estranged from that relationship, if he separates himself artificially, if he goes away, then yes, that fortune may be left abandoned. But it is always there if he returns to his ancestral situation. So this is like the devotee. He picks up exactly where he left off. He's not a riven cloud, as Arjuna opined, because that question was there also. What happens if you don't complete the process? There's no loss or diminution. And a little advancement saves one from the greatest fear. So this little advancement is not so little. It just seems little. Just like on a long journey, the first step is seen as the beginning. But it requires that initial effort. And so those who are on this path, they very easily reach the destination as long as they do not become distracted by the allure of Maya. But the devotee can easily escape this fatal attraction as long as he remains in the association. So this is the other key. Prabhupada always describes the importance of the association of the spiritual master and the devotees. Why did Prabhupada make the effort to create the International Society for Krishna Consciousness? I mean, he understood that the strength is there through this Vaishnava Sangha. It's very difficult to make any endeavor separately. We've seen many devotees have tried, even going to a so-called holy place, not even so-called, Sometimes someone ascribes a particular prominence to some place which really doesn't have that true definition. You know, someone will say that they're going to Rishikesh or Hardwar. And these are certainly places of pilgrimage in the sense that the Ganges flows there. But their true merit is by the great saints and sages who visit those places. It is by their attendance that such a place is regarded as holy. So if one goes to these places but sits alone, then he gets no benefits. He misunderstands. He thinks the ground is holy. It is not the ground that is holy. It is not the latitude and longitude that is holy. But it is the place of pilgrimage because of the great saints and sages who assemble there, like at Naimisharanya, or where the Bhagavatam is spoken, you know, on the bank of the Ganges also, in its original. So here we have a situation which is similar. Someone may say, what is holy about Brooklyn? What is that? It's just another zip code. But yet, the pure devotee appeared. He actually set foot in New York, first in Brooklyn. When he got down off the Jaladuta, he first stepped foot with those pointy rubber shoes that are situated in the museum here, off the gangway, and touched New York soil in Brooklyn. So just by his presence, the entire planet has been purified. What to speak of Brooklyn? So we have a great opportunity to try to appreciate what constitutes a holy place. You know, and as soon as these great sages and saints disappear, then of course that place is bereft. And we see very eloquent lamentation, you know, on the departure of the Vaishnavas. They say, where have these great personalities gone? So that lamentation is natural. But actually they have left us everything we need to maintain their association, especially by their instructions. So if one takes these instructions, wherever they're from, whether by hearing from the lips of the pure devotee, whether reading the purports, you know, of this, the masterpiece of translation that has been benedicted to us, and those devotees who carry within their hearts, you know, the mission. You know, this is a common, even in the military, they have certain priorities. And it's mission first. Mission first is always the priority, above all else, above all personal considerations. Mission first. Sometimes we see something happens, things go sideways or south, depending on your location. You know, and then what happens? You know, you lose half the team. But still, the primary directive is to try to complete the mission. So we see Srila Prabhupada's effort here. He felt that now my mission is successful. And so that means he has given to us something which is complete. There's nothing left really for us to do except to follow his instructions. And of course, this is the challenge. We have to appreciate what's been given to us. We have to understand that even in the so-called darkest hour, the light of the Bhagavatam is there for everyone. But one has to open it up, just like a flashlight. It doesn't work until you switch it on. Otherwise, it's just a paperweight or a club, which of course could have some use. It could hit somebody over the head with the Bhagavatam. But you really have to turn on the light. And that only happens if one is continually engaged in this process of purification. Otherwise, the light grows dim. Your batteries get weak. You need to get a recharge. Sometimes we forget. What does that mean? It means to engage in the Sankirtan Yajna. This is not an ordinary thing. It's not that we're simply chanting for our personal purification. That is there, obviously. But this is the continuity of the Yajna, which has begun by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. It should never cease. And by Prabhupada's arrangement, just imagine, the time between Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada, there was some chanting, obviously. But to the degree that it was being done in a manner and an effort which is conducted by the pure devotee, there weren't a lot of results. And ultimately that's how you judge something. They even have a saying like that, phalam parachiyate. You judge a tree by its fruit. So it's not that we criticize anyone, but we should take great pride in the fact that we are the inheritors of this legacy, this great fortune. But it does no one any good if it is not distributed. We can lock ourselves up inside and hide from whatever they're calling this thing now. First it was a pandemic, and now it's this, and now it's that. But ultimately, it's fear. And this is not the nature of the devotee. We already said, Nehabikramanasasti. Saves one from the greatest fear. How is one saved from the greatest fear if he's afraid? It's incompatible. Incompatible. The preaching doesn't stop for anything. This is, what is it called? We address the worship of the deity as Nitya Seva. It is eternal. Sometimes there are adjustments due to lack of facility. That's why we have to increase more and more for the pleasure of their lordships, that their standard is restored to the highest level. So this is a challenge, especially for those who have taken second initiation, that they have to be ready to accept service in that regard. Prabhupada only gave second initiation for those who were willing and able to engage in the service to the deity. Otherwise, there is no need for second initiation. And he said that. He said, those who cannot do that, distribute books, go on and Sankirtan, say they should be sent to the plow department. Plow department. Very interesting. But for those who have the desire and the capacity, our life and soul is to spread this message. We have no other business to make sure that this temple is prepared to accept guests at all times, under all circumstances. Sometimes it's a little awkward. We don't have someone at the front desk at the reception to open the door, or there's not enough prasadam cookies to give to those who come in. Prabhupada said prasadam should always be available. We have to make sure that this is kept in that way. And if it's not there by cookies, then the sweets should be cut up and distributed a little bit, a little bit. We have so much opportunity to benedict the living entities. And we have to make the effort. We have to be conscious of that duty, that we have been given such great mercy that it is our obligation to reciprocate. And that reciprocation word, Prabhupada defined it as responsive cooperation. And that responsive cooperation is between devotee and devotee, devotee and spiritual master, devotee and Krishna. It is there, responsive cooperation. So we're very fortunate to have the facility. So now we must accept the responsibility. And there is no shortage. Everything is available. We want books. We have a huge go-down full of books. And they're meant to be distributed. They're not meant to sit and collect dust. They're meant to be moved as quickly as possible. They should not sit for any length of time. And that is the same with in respect to whatever energy we have in these bodies should be fully utilized to spread the mission. And in this way, we will always be safely situated. And this is the key. Everyone wants safety. You know, you can, what do they call it? PPE. PPE, personal protective equipment. Personal protection equipment. But we have the greatest of all. We have this Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There is nothing more powerful. This is the medicine, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the medicine. So we take it every day and we distribute it to those who are intelligent or fortunate enough to receive it. So have no fear. We have that in Sankirtan. Remember those stickers, Gopal? No fear. Everywhere you go, you'll see a sticker from a Sankirtan devotee plastered on an exit ramp of a highway or storefront. No fear. Picture of Lord Nrsingadev. I remember I was getting off on some exit on some highway, and you stop at the light, which is where we traditionally used to do Sankirtan, at the stoplights. I look over to the left, and there it is, plastered on the guardrail. No fear. And right next to no fear, Lord Nrsingadev, is a I love your smile picture of Lord Jagannath. So everywhere you go, Krishna is there and his devotees are there. And we are meant to distribute this everywhere. And so we have to appreciate those who remain strict and staunch in this effort. It's like the Sankirtan party here in New York City is going on since, coming up on the 10th anniversary this year, the 10th anniversary. So somehow or other, we should make it our life's mission. Everyone can raise his hand, just like when you go in the military, you raise your hand. When you take initiation, you vow to serve the spiritual master this life. This is a vow. Matunga raised his hand. See, everybody raised their hand. We vow to remain faithful to the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This life and every life. And then we'll go back at home, back to Godhead, as Prabhupada describes. Yeah. So we're not, we're looking forward actually to that. We've seen so many of our God brothers achieve this. And there's no lamentation. That's also there. That Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochiti Nakamshiti. What is the point of lamentation? One who knows the science of the soul, there is no lamentation. He has nothing to fear and everything to look forward to. And you see Prabhupada, what was his attitude? He says, as long as I can work, I'm fine. Otherwise, I can die anytime. This is not a problem for the devotee. He simply wants to do whatever Krishna wants him to do. He has no personal desire. None whatsoever. Everything for Krishna's service. Anasakta sivisyan yatam upayunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yukta varagi uchite. Everything for Krishna. This is the real vairagya, not this false marketa vairagya. Marketa means like the monkeys. The monkeys, they don't know. They steal somebody's iPhone in Loy Bazaar. And then they throw it down on the ground. They don't know what it is. This is a monkey renunciation. He doesn't know that's $1,000 iPhone 13, 14, 15. He's just doing it for his master. You'd be surprised. Who is his master? The 10-year-old boy with the little fruity container. But once you know the secret, then you can always get it back. You just simply buy the fruity container and you throw it to the monkey and then he drops the phone. That's his price. For a few rupee container of juice, you can get back your phone. But most people don't know that. So when the little kid runs up and says, 200 rupees, 200 rupees, you pay the kid 200 rupees when you could have got the phone back for 5 rupees for a carton of juice. So this is Maya. She's trying to trick us. But once you know the science, then you should not be fooled. That's the key. Anyway, we can go on like this all the time. One pointed attention. One has to be strictly focused. Strictly focused. Any questions? Bhakta Kyle's hand went up like a rocket. Give Bhakta Kyle the microphone.
Thank you for giving class as always. This isn't a question, but maybe a humble request. It being the 50th anniversary of Radha Govinda's installation, I was wondering if maybe you'd share the first time you received darshan.
Well, that would take too long. We'll do that later on in the evening.
So maybe I can ask a question then. So I've heard that when we're trying to approach a guru, they'll test us and we should test them. In which way can we test a guru if it seems like everyone's my guru? I'm so low that I'm learning from everybody. So how can I come to the platform of realizing who my guru is?
Well, it's not so much of that we're testing the guru, but we're observing. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, how does he walk? How does he talk? How does he sit? How does he behave? Essentially. So we're looking. Krishna is the perfect person. And that who has accepted this position as the spiritual master representing Krishna. He's also, to that extent, he's following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. It is not some magic formula. No. One has to be a little intelligent. From the Bhagavad Gita, we understand who is that, what are the qualifications? Vidya Vinaya Sampanya, Brahma Gavani Hastani. Vidya Vinaya Sampanya. You see, he's with equal vision. So that person who sees with equal vision, that's another qualification. Undisturbed. Machak sparshasta kaunteya. Undisturbed. He's sober, dhira in every circumstance. He's not getting angry because his meal is not prepared on time. Or you gave him cold milk instead of hot milk. No, this is, so we just have to try to, but does he speak with conviction, on the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Do we see that in his presentation? It is not that you can fake it till you make it, as a spiritual master. We have, is a solemn obligation. And there are so many, the Nectar of Instruction gives such a clear definition. Who can make disciples? Who is controlled? Are his senses controlled? Are her senses controlled? Because there's no distinction. Prabhupada said, who is guru, who is disciples? They are also guru. The next, this is the parampara. Prabhupada doesn't distinguish. So our concern should be, how can I be purified so that my vision is corrected in order to see who is that spiritual master? This is our problem, is that now we're wearing these glasses that we see through lenses of the material modes of nature. So when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, that is the corrected vision. And then we can see 2020. We see things as they are. It's a great feeling in that sense, but it's not something that one should dwell on, that, I've achieved something wonderful. No. It can be just as easily lost if one is not careful. There are many souls who have come on the path. We see them everywhere. We see, Bharat Maharaj, the emperor of the planet. He gives up everything. And what happens? He becomes enamored of a baby deer. Such a great loss. And he has to suffer and take birth again. Not just once, but twice. So, don't become complacent. Remain in the association of devotees at all costs. Being on a separate path, whether physically or mentally, will not help you on this going forward. It makes it very difficult. You need to have those friends in spiritual life who will assist you when required. This is key. And otherwise, what is the purpose? Why do we have association devotees? Why do we see the 6 Goswamis? Why isn't it the 1 Goswami? We don't have it. It's the 6 Goswamis. It's Lord Chaitanya and his followers, not just Lord Chaitanya. And everyone is there, gathered together, ramanti tishanti cha ramanti cha. And they're enjoying everything increasingly by this association. So don't challenge or test the spiritual master according to material conception. Any other questions? Okay. Yes, Matangaji.
Just wanted to say that I could relate with what you were saying in the beginning about reading the Gita and the scriptures, that they kind of illuminate your intelligence, your mind. I can clearly remember when I first read my first book, the Ishopanishad, it completely unlocked my
like a light bulb.
Yeah, exactly. I very clearly remember it, and the words of Prabhupada, of the pure devotee, they completely entered my heart, and I decided this is it.
Yeah.
I just want to join the temple, and I did that. And then I immediately tried to share this treasure that I have found with a friend. For example, I was reading to him from Ishupanishad and trying to explain to him, and but he wasn't getting it. And I started thinking to myself, how unfortunate are these people that they don't have this knowledge. They are like completely bewildered, completely.
They weren't ready according to their punya kriti, their agyata sukriti. Whereas when you read it, the light bulb, they even have that show you when people get this eureka moment, the light bulb, they show you in a cartoon, light bulb over side, it represents this enlightenment. All these terms are meant to illustrate going from darkness to light. Tamasi ma jyotirgama. Don't stay in the darkness, go to the light. In one sense, to us, it seems like common sense. But for the person who is living in darkness and thinks that everything is darkness and that darkness is natural, he has no desire. And we see people in the mode of ignorance. What do? They never want to wake up. They sleep throughout the entire day and they wake up at night. And the Bhagavad Gita says that very clearly. And through their entire life, they do that. They hide from the light. They make everything as dark as possible. Creatures of the night. So don't stay in the darkness. Go to the light. All right? Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhaka. Krishna is light and Maya is darkness. Any other questions? What? I think you had your quote about it. You have to read Ishupanishad again, Bhakti Kal.
Hare Krishna, this is a question by Kofi Yeboah on YouTube. So they're asking, how many times can one chant the Hare Krishna mantra minimum?
How many times should one chant?
Can one chant Hare Krishna mantra minimum?
Minimum for the devotee who is on the path of self-realization is 16 rounds given to us by the bona fide spiritual master. So this is an important consideration. One can begin at any point, just like the description we described earlier of the yoga ladder. Taking that first step, and we remember from our initial attempts to begin chanting, one kind-hearted devotee told me, whatever you begin, whatever you start, don't reduce, only increase. So if you can chant one round, then you should chant one round until you feel that you can chant two. And then you should chant two, but then you should never go back to chanting just one. You should always be trying to increase. This will give you some idea of how you're developing the taste for chanting. Because in the beginning, it's difficult. It's difficult because we don't have the taste. Although the holy name is sweet, in the beginning, it's described by, I forget who is that, but the analogy is that when one is sick with jaundice, sweet things taste bitter. But the cure for jaundice is misery, sugar candy. And you suck on the sugar candy and it restores your liver function. And then again, things will taste as they were before. So in the beginning, chanting the holy name may be a little bit difficult because we don't have the taste, because of our contamination. The dirty things in the heart. But the more we chant, the more these dirty things are cleared and the taste is restored, so that we feel like we should be able to chant continuously without stopping, except that we have our obligation to the spiritual master, that we have a minimum chant, and the Goswamis also confirm that we should chant a fixed number of rounds. Now we know, and it's not that Rupa Goswami said that we should chant this many or that many, but we do know what they chanted. They're chanting a minimum of 64 rounds. And this is the standard. But in the age of Kali, things are reducing. Everything is reducing. Man's age, his intelligence, everything is. So the spiritual master has given that concession that now we can chant 16 rounds and satisfy the formula which is prescribed, just like the doctor gives a prescription. And so as long as we take this prescription faithfully, then that is sufficient for us. So the minimum for us is 16, but one should begin wherever he can and increase. I hope that answers the question. And it's late now. We can continue the conversation. Oh, yes. One more question for our viewers, Maharaj. Maharaj's questions are too difficult anyway. We'll take an easy one.
Hare Krishna, this question is from Andre Lobo. How to serve our Lord Krishna properly?
How to serve Lord Krishna properly? Very nice question. Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita tells us how he should be served. Patram pushpam pulam toyom yome bhakti prasati. Tadaham bhakti uprahatam ashnami prayatat. One offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a fruit, a flower, and some water. I accept it. It's a very simple thing. There is more difficult. Krishna says that one should worship me continuously. That's also there. But to begin, he makes it very simple. One offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a fruit, a flower, some water, I accept. And then we can increase. There's no end to how one can serve Krishna. And that's that verse, Yukta Vairagya Uchate. Anything, Prabhupada said. We read yesterday in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And everyone, we were all a little bit surprised of what can be engaged in Krishna's service. Even missiles, Prabhupada said. So, but we should begin with flowers and water. That's our level. Love and devotion. That is the key. It's bhakti is not force. Bhakti is love. Any other questions? Maharaj wants to give a comment.
Chopati. He was saying he was trying to get some guy to chant. He just said he couldn't even chant one round. Finally, he said, "Can you just chant one mantra?" And the guy agreed, okay, one mantra. And then after some time, he said, "I'm doing 16 now, 16 mantras."
16 mantras.
He was very proud of himself that he increased. But even that's good. That's better than, most of the people in the universe here in the world.
Yes. Kirtaniya Sadahari. Always chant. There's no loss. Always chant under any circumstance. And if you are not practiced to chant at the time of death, you'll chant something else. So don't be like those persons who at the time of death have to make some pejorative, some vulgar pejorative. Why? Because they don't know. Their whole life was wasted. Whole life at the time of death, and they just curse. They don't know anything else. So sad. And the devotee, anytime he encounters any difficulty, immediately, oh Krishna. Immediately, oh Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Radha Govinda Day of Golden Jubilee ki. Who said that? Make sure that the video's off. We don't say those things. Oh, my wife is criticizing me.